Your name, branch of service, years of service. Go.
All right, Jason Shields. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. Joined the Army right after high school. Did 20 years. Met my wife back in '92 and got married, and been married 33 years now. So did 20 years as an infantryman. I had a 3-year break in service. I deployed 6 times. All just good stuff. Had a 3-year break, came back in, did another 13, hit my 20-year mark, and hung it up. Started a nonprofit called Hoof Haven Sanctuary, and started a sign business doing decals and signs and sticker.
So,
so cutting edge graphics.
Articulate again. What was that nonprofit that you started?
Hoof Haven Sanctuary.
Hoof Haven.
Home of the forgotten.
Okay.
Hoof Haven is the home of the forgotten horses. So all these, we got 22 equine out here. They all came from different kill pens, local rescues, just all kinds of situations. The horses all showed up. They were really emaciated most of the time. We had to put them on special diets, care for them. They've all got their own story. They all help me deal with PTSD, brother.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then a sign business. Is there a name for that sign business that we can put out there?
It's Cutting Edge Graphics here in Gatesville, Texas. So we do mostly stickers. We do a lot of that rubber mat decal. Stencil for the military, for contractors or whoever needs it,
Sure.
So, we stay pretty busy. It's just me and my son-in-law running it. Eventually probably move off and get a big building somewhere and get some bigger printers and just keep growing. Because it seems like that's all I've been since 13. So.
Oh, that's good. Keeping busy.
Oh, if they're not familiar with me, normally I'd say I was in the Army and I was a sanitation disposal expert, is what I like to say. And they'll ask me what that is, and I'll be like, oh, well, it's just a grunt, just a infantryman,
Sanitation disposal expert. Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's like, and they think I was taking out the trash, which we kind of were.
Sure.
Sure. Oh, good.
Yeah. So, all right. So you said you grew up in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, yeah.
And so what was that childhood like? Were your parents together forever? Are they still together? Or what was your childhood
my
like?
my mom and dad got divorced. I think I was 3 probably. And then my mom married my stepdad, and he was there, up until I turned 18 and joined the Army. Great guy, had 2 dads kind of. It was like one serious and one was the fun guy, So the fun guy's still around. My other stepdad had passed away when I was, back right before I retired from the Army. So that's been a while. I had a brother and a sister. Well, I still do. I talk to them every now and then. My mom's still up in Vancouver, Washington. So
that brother and sister, where do you fall in there? Are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest?
Yeah.
And how old are you again?
Oh my goodness, 54.
All right. So what kind of values shaped you growing up? This is all going to lead into your decision to join the military.
So, I think just working hard. I got a paper route when I was 12 years old. Did that for a couple years. Worked at a gas station for a while. Worked at a Sizzlers for a while. Worked at McDonald's, and then I met my recruiter back in '88. And I was still, a senior, and he was kind of grooming me to join the Army, and back then at 89 or 80, late 88, I took my ASVAB, and they said, well, you can be an infantryman or a cook, and I'm like, well, let's go be an infantryman. I went to Delta 258 infantry basic training, 1 station unit training at Fort Benning, like all the other infantry guys. So I had my student platoon guide was Daniel Daly, so he ended up being the sergeant major of the Army. So I got to run into him a couple times throughout the years. That was pretty cool. Back in the day, it was like he'd always be so motivated, and I just had never had that concept of being a leader. It was all foreign to me. I just joined the Army to travel the world, do cool stuff, shoot guns, and just be a cool guy. Anyway, I had great mentors through the years. They just kind of got me focused, and one day they said, hey, we're going to send you to the board and become a sergeant. I was like, man, why in heck would they want to send this guy to the board? Why would they want to make me an NCO? And I had a good time, had a pretty good career. When I was just at Bucky 5, I was in the old 112 infantry at Fort Carson back in '94. So I met my wife back in in 91. Got married May 14th, 92. So it's been 33 years right now.
Oh, congrats. That's a good run for marriage nowadays.
Oh my God. I'm like, how did she put up with me, bro?
I don't know. I could ask her the same thing. Maybe we should be interviewing her and her strategies.
Man, she's a rock star, boy. I tell you what. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
did
then
you have any
go ahead.
family members that were in the military, that were in the Army? Kind of any inspiration that way? No.
I think my real dad, he was in the Army Reserves. I had Uncle Scott that was in the Air Force, and he was probably in around the time I was 13, 14. I think he was in for maybe a year, got chaptered out or kicked out or something. I'm not really sure. But came back singing goofy cadences, and man, I just loved singing cadences. And later on, that helped me as a drill sergeant. So I think that was a good thing.
Yeah. So what was the what was the lead up? Why? What was the? Was there a moment that was like, I need to do something to get out of here, so I'm going to join the military, or was there just
No, just I graduated high school down at North Eugene High School. I met that recruiter, and he's, hey, come on over here. I got these joints, smoke one, or just kind of, hey, bring these girls over here. My wife's out of town. He really had me on a bad foot. And when I after I graduated basic training, I got to Germany. I just posted the other day a picture of me in the middle of, and I had Jerry Jett behind me, and George Sherecki in front of me. And I think they both got chaptered out, but we used to run around getting all kinds of trouble. And when I was a private, I had a 280 SE Mercedes over there. And me and the guys would shuttle back and forth to Frankfurt or Berlin or Munich, or we'd be cruising all over the country. And it was a lot of fun. And most of my friends got chaptered out of the Army. And then, I was sitting there and got my command sponsorship after we got married in Denmark. And it was a lot of fun. It was always in the field, training for the war that I thought would never come. And then I re-enlisted in 93, and then 94 I moved to Fort Carson, Colorado. That's where they decided to make me an NCO. I had a lot of great guys. I was in the old 112. We deployed to Cuba for JTF 160. So that was back in 94, 95 timeframe, when all the Cuban refugees were coming over in the boats. They were getting picked up by the Coast Guard. They were bringing them back to Gitmo. So we'd set up the golf course. We set up the Haitian camp at the golf course, and then we moved to the high school and set up the Cuban refugee camps. We were there for about a year. And then I came back early on ADVON, and I got to my unit, and they were like, well, your 112 is going to be deactivated. So I ended up getting just a young sergeant, and I met this guy named Jesse Tomasek at the PX shop at, I can't remember where I met him, but I was like, well, what's your job? I seen this E6 driving around with government vehicle trucks, had one of the brick telephones, keys to that ride. And he said he was General Schwartz's division RUNC. I was like, man, that sounds pretty cool. How does somebody get into something like that? He's like, oh, you're a Cherry E5, you'll never get into it, and I pulled out of my pocket the coin that I had gotten from Colonel Johnson. So when I was back on that ADVON, I ended up being a fire marker, and nobody wanted to take charge. I had E5s and E6s that had way more rank and time and grade than me, and they were like, one of you needs to be fire marker 6. So I had my major's vehicle, had the old ANGRC 160 radio in there, the old push button one. I was like, you know what, I'll do it. I'll be your fire marker 6. So I mapped it out. They'd call the fires to me. I dispatched the other 5 guys. They'd go through artillery, send their battle damage assessment back to me. I called the talk. The radios would go down. I'd backfill their 1594, and anyway, they were like, hey, great job. They gave me an Impact AAM, and Colonel Johnson, he gave me a Divardi coin, and I kind of used that as leverage when I met the headquarters commandant. It's Major Lawrenson and Master Sergeant Perez, Master Sergeant Yother, and Major Lawrence. So those were the 3 that were in the commandant's office. They liked me, I guess. I showed them that cool shiny coin I got from Colonel Johnson, and they kind of used that as leverage, and met General Schwartz, and he said, yeah, you're gonna be my RNU NCO. So I was his RNU NCO. I took old Jesse Tomasek's spot, and I got to run around, with a government truck and a cell phone, and had 3 credit cards, 2 service and 1 supply. maybe it was the other way around. But anyway, it was cool working for Tommy Schwartz. He super cool guy. He'd pat me on the back, and I swear his hand would be like from shoulder blade to my right latimus, or he'd throw me his keys and he'd be like, "Hey, run to my house and get this or that." And I'd jump in his Honda Del Sol and put my legs straight out, and there'd be like a foot and a half until my feet could even reach the pedals. This super big, friendly guy,
Sure. When you're 19 and you're enlisting into the military, I'm assuming you were still living at home at the time?
Yes.
All
Yep.
right. So what was the family reaction? What was mom and dad's reaction to you saying,
Oh, shoot.
I'm going in the army?
I think my dad's reaction were like, "Yeah, sounds like fun. Get out there, see the world. Go learn something. Go learn about life. Because it's like, what kind of goals and ambitions do you have as a 17 or 18-year-old? Hey, Mickey, what's up, dude? And you come over here. Kitty's running all over the place here. Sorry about that.
Well,
Yeah,
so your dad was basically all for it.
Dad was all for it. Mom was like, a little bit worried, a little bit nervous, and they're probably thinking, "Oh, he's signed up his infantry. I don't think he can make it through basic training." But I did. It's the grace of God.
What do you remember? Yeah. So that would mean it was 1990 when you were in basic.
Yep.
Correct. So, and then what year did you become a drill sergeant? And I'm assuming you were a drill sergeant for infantry.
Oh yeah. So, went back to what I was talking about earlier. Went to Carson. I got out for 3 years. Worked in Germany. Seen all my old buddies coming through the gate, and they said, "Hey, come back, be a master gunner. Get you under my wing. You earn that rank back, whatever." So I took a grade reduction. Signed up at Würzburg. Went to Fort Stewart as like an E4. So I got reduced in rank because I'd signed the deck statement. Anyway, long story short, I show up at Fort Stewart. I'm in 15th Infantry. We go to S48 in Bosnia. Come back from that, and I re-enlisted to come to Fort Hood, and I made the E6 cutoff en route to Fort Hood. Deployed with 122 Infantry, regulars by God. First tour, we were in Tikrit, Alosia, our company outpost is Gators. Me and you were there. I remember you you were usually up on the outpost or out patrol.
I was there.
You interviewed JP the other day, and like I was telling you earlier, I remember the day that he got shot in his head. They brought him in there and bandaged him up, and that joker was back out on patrol.
Yep. So from the time that you were in basic to the time that you were a drill sergeant, I'm curious as to what are some of the differences from the way you were trained as an infantryman to the way you did the training as a drill sergeant? Was there any major differences?
There wasn't much. I mean, I had really great mentors, super NCOs through the years. I was in Germany as a private. I had Monty Hall. He was my headquarters platoon sergeant. After I came out of the line unit, went to headquarters, and he was a master gunner. I always had great master gunners. When I got to Stewart, I had Sergeant Chairpack. He was my platoon sergeant for a while. He was an outstanding master gunner. I mean, these guys knew the gun like you wouldn't believe, And I don't think, I've fired, so many gunneries. I've had 1,000-point gunneries back in the older 10Ts so many times, and it just seems so easy, man. It was like, pay attention to your functioning of the sequencing of the weapon, and you understand how it works. It was like, man, you can't mess up,
It's been about 20. Well, Jesus, what has it been now since 2003? Well, 22 years. I still remember,
22 years,
all that stuff. All that stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The M240 Bravos, cooled, fully automatic machine gun fired from the open bolt position.
Right. Oh yeah.
So, I'm trying to remember because I had Sergeant Caffey was third squad leader at the time, and I was third squad. You were in first squad, correct?
I was in first squad, so I was the platoon sergeant's wingman.
Yep.
And then Nick Johnson, he's still in the Army. He was the LT's wingman, so it was our 4 Bradleys, but most of the time it was me and Sergeant Gamboa on the other vehicle out on patrol. So I did 6 months as a Bradley section leader, as a TC on Bradley, BC, Bradley Commander.
Mm-hmm.
Then they moved me to the ground, so I did the last 6 months on that tour as a heavy weapons squad leader. And I had Ponce de Leon, and oh my gosh, Garcia. He was my driver in the Bradley, but I think he went with me on the ground after that. Salcedo, man, just super great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sergeant Manley was another squad leader. Sergeant Cappy was another squad leader. Yeah, it was a good time. It was
Sergeant
it's
Kathy was
exciting,
my squad leader. He was a good guy.
let's go to Fort Hood, baby, and
Sure.
raised my right hand again, gave the oath, and packed it up, PCS'd again.
Yeah. So we know that it was not till obviously March of 2003
Check.
when we deployed.
Yep.
So you were there, obviously with your wife. Did you have any kids at that time?
Oh yeah. Yvonne, Corey, Daniel. Yeah, they were growing like weeds. Yeah.
Sure. So how old were they when we actually?
In 03, Yvonne would have been 12 or 13. Let's see, she was born in 88. Corey was born in 90, and Daniel was born in 92, December 92.
Okay.
So they're growing in age. I mean, God, it seemed like I hardly knew them because I was never there. Just training. 'Cause, I mean, even when we got there in January that year, February came up, and I went to Master Gunner School. And then March, I got recalled, like March 1st, probably. I was like week 5 into Master Gunner course. And, I thought, hey, I got these battle buddies down here. I'm going to graduate Master Gunner School and go straight to Airborne School. And first sergeant calls the schoolhouse, and they're like, hey, you got to send Shields back to Fort Hood. We're deploying. We're going to Iraq.
Yeah.
All right. So it was like, and then I get back from that. It was like a week later we left, so I'd been in that house for maybe a month.
Sure.
And
yeah, we were going.
not even that much, and then it was like Master Gunner School for 5 weeks, and then it was like get back home and then deploy for a year, maybe 12 and a half months. I can't remember how long it was, but it was just a little over a year, it seemed like.
Yeah, I was there. I left in September. I actually ETS.
Okay.
3 months. Okay. 3 months later, then per the Army's convenience,
right.
Kind of hold you there a little bit longer. So, but when you obviously you were on other deployments as well.
Yeah.
Was this one? Did it feel different than the others?
Oh yeah, it felt. I mean, early on they had different methods for tracking soldiers in combat, and then later on they brought out like the CPOF, the Command Post of the Future, and it was kind of like a SIPRNet network type of thing where you could track new units, plug in your FBCB2s and kind of track it. But early on in that first tour, it was like, here's a map. I mean, you had the FBCB2, which most people didn't use theirs. I mean, I used mine just because I knew how to use it, but I always read a map. I was, back in 93, I got my expert infantryman's badge in Germany when I was a private. I was like the only PFC in a 1,200-man infantry battalion to get his expert infantryman's badge, and I had a broken foot. Finished that 12-miler with a broken foot. It was pretty crazy, but reading the map is so important, man. I don't think they stress it like they used to, because we were in that company Gator outpost, and the ODA guys and the K guys and all the 3-letter agencies were in and out of there because that was Saddam Hussein's birth town.
Yeah.
His birth palace was there. It was hit with JDAMs. They leveled out. Most of that building got smoked out. We still used it for counter sniper, putting snipers up there and watching that Tigris River Valley a lot. I remember sitting out there, and the Uday's palace is right down from that. And we lived in, me and you and all the Gators, Alpha Company 122, we lived in an old Ba'ath Party headquarters building that was right next to the mosque in the town of Al Oja. How's your Arabic? Do you remember anything?
Allah Akbar. and there's a little more, but I think the main thing is that because it was every day there was that.
Get your hands up. You remember that one, right? After they ate them.
Well, I remember. Well, the first time I actually tried that one, it didn't work out so well. I was with Sergeant Caffey.
Right.
Yeah, I was with Sergeant Caffey. We had just gotten down into that area, and these two guys, it was just me, Caffey, and I think 2 other guys in the back. So we had a little perimeter around the Bradley, and it was basically 2 guys started approaching, and they had gun up, finger on the trigger. They kept approaching and took the safety off, and was just. Sergeant Caffey was like, "Oh no, hold on." Yeah. I mean, I was. Yeah. I don't even remember what I was saying.
Oh,
just stop.
we
get back.
Seemed like we were grabbing people all the time and just taking them to the dip. We never even got a deck of cards. Shoot, I didn't get one until a few months ago. I found it on eBay. I was like, man, I need to get me a deck of cards.
You didn't get it. I actually had a deck of cards while we were
You
away.
got one. I mean, I got a new one. I got a new one now, but back then it was like, hey, here's your target, HVT number, whatever. Sometimes the ODA guys would come out with us. They'd look at a map and they'd be like, hey, Sergeant Shields, park your Bradley here, drop your crunchies here, orientate to the northwest, your red flare, hit the place 25 until we come and tell you to turn it off. And be like, yeah, okay, let's go. Jump in the Bradley, roll out the gate. We'd hit a target house. Sometimes we'd have, them super secret guys, and they'd have these boxes and stuff, and they'd be like, yeah, he's in there.
Yeah. We're there. What are some of the things? Well, I know one of the things I remember is when they got Uday and Kusei. And
Oh yeah.
I was talking to PJ, and he was like, "Oh, well, you weren't." I was like, "No, I was there. I remember when they brought him and buried him like right outside our back door
Yeah.
there."
Me and Ponce de Leon, I mean, my whole fire decks, I was on the ground at that time. We sat out there for like a week watching, just all night long, just watching to see if anybody was going to loot their grave sites, which we didn't really give two hoots if somebody looted their grave sites, because
Right.
they were punks, man. They were just brutal to the people that lived in Tikrit and the people in Alaosia. Just everybody had to bow to them, man. I remember seeing the girls once Uday and Kusei were killed down. Yeah, so man, they got killed up in Mosul, and then they brought them back down to Tikrit, and that's about the same time that I came back from Mosul, because I guess General Odinero, or maybe General Petraeus, asked General Odinero, he's like, hey, can you send a Bradley section up here? General Odinero, he called Jim Hickey, and Jim Hickey called Colonel Russell, and Colonel Russell called Captain Stouffer, and Captain Stouffer said, hey, Shields, take your Bradley section up there to Mosul airfield, so loaded it up on a hit, went up there for about 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that. We sat at the south gate of the Mosul airfield.
Well, we were
Yeah,
up there beforehand too. Like that was one of our first stops, and
you
then
guys did. I stayed when we first came up there. I brought the brigade headquarters up there from Baghdad, so
Yep.
we kind of sat. I kind of sat on guard. Yeah, with a whole platoon. I did after a while, but I think it was just me and another Bradley. We had to escort like 115 vehicles from Baghdad to to Crit. I mean, we didn't get into Alaosia right away. I think, whatever powers at play, I would have to ask Steve Russell that
Yeah.
and see how that came about. But, we ended up in Alaosia. After we stayed with I think you were there too for a while. I think our whole platoon was kind of guarding that whole outpost where
Yep.
Jim Hickey had set up. So it was right between Alaosia and town of Tikrit. Right in the middle, there was a palace. Yeah, and then we set up the perimeter. We cleared all the area around there. We cleared those little buildings out there. Yeah,
So
it was.
were you there when we found the millions of dollars buried underground, or were you
Oh
up in
man,
Mosul at that time?
yeah, it was up. No, that was before I was in Mosul. So
Okay.
that was the Hadushi brother.
Hadushi,
Yeah,
yep.
the Hadushis. So yeah, I sat out there on a Bradley, and them are. I don't know if you were on the ground, but whoever was on the ground was
I walked by that stack
helping
of
those
money on
guys
the picnic
digging them up.
table.
Oh yeah, we found what, $1 million or
I think it was like
$6 million?
$7. Yeah.
Might have been. Yeah, I can't
I
remember.
think there was $7 million in cash and like $3 million in jewels or whatever, according to Colonel Russell's book, anyways.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that was a pretty cool one. But they were all cool. Even sitting outside the Highway 1, just watching the ammo dumps, because back in those days, like there was the FBCB2 might have tracked you, but your company headquarters, they were like, hey, get your ass out there and guard the ammo dumps, man. People would come out there and they'd rat fuck the ammo. Sorry, they'd steal, from those things in the middle of the night, and we just pull over the top of the hill and hit them with a Bradley fighting vehicle, and it was like,
Yeah.
hey, quit reporting this shit. We're trying to track other stuff. It's like, okay, going after bad guys. We're blowing up people that are setting IEDs. We're just staying busy. It was man, nonstop action, brother,
Yeah.
nonstop.
Well, the raids were just every single night. It was
Oh,
raid
yeah.
after
Oh, yeah.
raid after raid after raid.
Oh,
So
yeah. Oh my God, all the
I remember
HVTs. I
when we
think
first started doing the raids, we would use the and I don't worry, the all the podcasts and everything are labeled as explicit. So we'd
Oh,
drive the Bradley right through the fucking concrete wall
oh
up to the
God,
front of
right,
the
right.
house. I remember the last time we
Man,
did that, and it was like, guys, you got to stop doing that. And
do you remember the first time we did that?
yeah, yeah, that's. I think there
That so
was.
that it was the oh my gosh, it was his Saddam's defense minister, maybe. He was the guy that was on the news saying, "Oh, there's nothing going on here," and the tanks and the Bradleys were like rolling behind him. But his
Yeah,
property, I believe it was Adwar, and we set up outer cordon with the Bradleys. And I don't remember who. I think it was Mark Dornbush. Looked at me and he said this, and he double patted that wall right there, and then him and his guys backed out of the way. And Garcia drove that Bradley through that brick
that's
wall,
right. It
man.
was
The
Garcia.
guys come running in. Yeah, Garcia, bro. He Man, what the greatest guy in the world, bro. He saved our life, man. But he
Mm,
drove that Bradley like a champ.
yeah,
He was great.
yeah. There's a lot. So, out of all of the things and all of the experiences, what as far as Iraq, and then we'll just go military across the line. But as far as like your time in service in Iraq, what are a couple of things that really stand out to you that happened then that you still carry with you today? Not doesn't have to be like in a good or bad way, just something that you changed.
Probably just the relations you build with people. I mean,
Yeah,
I was just over there doing my job, and you were too. I mean, nobody got any special recognition for
right.
good action here or that. I mean, I did get a coin up in Mosul. David Petraeus had came out to my Bradley and he said, "Good action, and did your job the other night." Yeah. Anyway, he gave me a 101st coin. Uh,
Hmm.
Still got it on my wall. I got probably 30 or 40 coins. I'm sure a good chunk of those are from General Schwartz because I'd be helping him design and make them and stuff like that.
Sure.
I didn't make them. Anyway, yeah, well, I got a lot of coins from that meeting dignitaries, the Secretary of Defense. I mean, all kinds of people. He was a pretty neat person to work for. Great mentorship. And it's like hard to believe that you go through 20 years of your life and have all these activities that a lot of people they don't give two shits. They don't want to hear about it. I'm starting
Right.
to learn to shut my mouth because people just can't relate like
Right.
us fellow infantrymen. We shared something. We've taken lives and we've done things that most people could never even imagine. You live, you take care of that stuff. I remember after that first deployment, she'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, "Man, I don't know. I'm just, I'd jump out of my bed and grab my sniper rifle." I lived in Copper's Cove, and I'd be like hanging out my window, just watching up and down the road with my rifle and shit. And she'd be like, "You got me doing that?" I'd be like, "Yeah," and it's like, "Hey, drink water, PT, take Motrin, and just keep sucking it up, driving on."
Yeah.
I learned to bury it through the years, and
Is
later on
that
went back for second deployment. Yeah, yeah, sorry.
would you call that, when you learn to bury it, is that looking at it now, is that a good, bad, or a healthy,
I
unhealthy
think
way
it's I
of
think it I think it's just a natural way of dealing with it, because you got to go on, you gotta keep living. God's got us all here on this mission. I can talk about that if you want. I got time for you, brother. It's great to connect with my boys, my Gators. It's cool. I've been down to that Gator party at First Sergeant Garza's house a couple times through the years. They did it at John and Nicole Dameron's place. Was it last year? And then this year they did it at First Sergeant Garza's house. I went down there for a day. I don't usually stay all night.
sure, sure.
I can't party like a rock star no more.
Right,
It's just you
right.
start getting old, your body
Yeah,
starts breaking
we
down, or you get electrocuted and it really shuts you down for a while.
yeah, yeah. So we gotta well I wanna hear what happened there too. So I was looking at some of the
Oh yeah,
photos and some of the pictures that you had sent.
yeah,
Some of them are kind of like, holy cow, that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's pretty rough. So what is and I had heard again, I heard a couple things about a lot of different guys through the grapevine. Somebody mentions
Yeah,
this
yeah,
on Facebook Messenger, mentions that, and I had heard that there was some type of accident, but I had absolutely no idea
yeah.
what had happened. It's like another good one is Robert K9. He actually apparently he lost a leg
Oh
um
yeah.
while over there, and I didn't know anything about that until a couple of years ago, actually.
Oh
So
wow.
there's all these little things that kind of occur and happen.
It's Arcano. What a great guy, man. Yeah. It's
Yeah, Robert
crazy.
K. Oh yeah, he really was. He was a good guy. I definitely
Yeah, I
agree with
remember
you.
Matt Summers and Brad
I
Owens.
just
Matter
talked
of
to
fact,
Summers. Yeah.
that's too cool. Because when I went to the Sergeant Major Academy first sergeant course, Brad Owens was in my class through a
Oh, Sergeant Owens. Yeah.
BTC. Yeah, I was like, man, I'm like, look at this dude. I'm like, yeah,
That
yeah.
guy was my squad or my yeah. Well, he was a squad leader for a while there,
Squad leader. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was that was a character. Sergeant Owens was a
Man.
character.
Yeah, he
So,
was. Yeah. I
so
still remember my old. You remember Johnson, right? The guy that got hit by a car in Chicago and died.
which what? No, no, no. I don't.
He was my 240 gunner when I was heavy weapon squad.
Okay.
So yeah, just super accident prone. Oh my God, we were sitting on the side of Highway one night watching a notorious IED strike location, and man, we were out there for like 2 3 nights, I think. Ponce de Leon and man, Sergeant Salcedo. I can't remember if Garcia. He might have been with me. Anyway, yeah, we're out there, and man, it was like as a squad leader, it's kind of like you dictate like what time going to sleep schedule, who's watching what, contingency plan. You just always doing TTPs, TP and PCIs, PCCs. Just always staying busy and trying to think what's next, and I really learned that lesson.
Some of the pictures that you sent and everything else, and there
Yeah.
was obviously an accident. What is it that happened? Are you okay talking
Oh
about that,
yeah, yeah,
or what occurred? Because I
yeah,
heard about it, but I don't know what actually happened.
yeah. Yeah. So long story short, I was out. Uh, man, it was June 28th of 2021. And me and Birgit went down to clean, did something, got back. And then my buddy called. He's like, hey, come check my new pool, and I ran out to my truck and didn't feel like dropping my lift, and I'm driving down Highway 84 in Gatesville and I see the sign. I'm like thinking, it's coming up, I better stop and measure it real quick. And I got out. I kind of set my boom up kind of funny because I had to park kind of wonky just to get up on the roof and extended my boom out. And I was too far away. So I couldn't just step off the lift onto the roof to measure that sign. So I started
So
bringing the upper
you
boom
were putting up a
in.
sign for your business?
No, no, I was just stopping to measure it. Yeah, I was just because I knew it was coming up, and I'd
Sure.
talked to the owner about redoing it for him and stuff like that. And yeah, anyway, I couldn't step off the lift to get on the roof. I was bringing the upper boom in, and then I believe something hit caught the safety harness because it sent me straight up with the upper boom extended, which put my left deltoid into a 14,400 volt line. So that was enough juice to run like 9 or 10 electric chairs all at the same time. So it
Wow.
was a lot of power. It came out my left hand. My friend's a lineman. He said I probably got hit 3 times, but I don't remember too much of it. I remember like, man, I don't know how deep I want to go down the rabbit hole in this one because I kind of had a religious experience. I can
Sure.
kind of talk about it later. And then I remember, fireman like, hey, he was saying, "Don't touch nothing, Jay. Don't touch nothing," and he looked worried. I'm like, man, I gotta get this lift down. Start playing with my controls, and nothing's working. I was just in outer space, and I don't remember, but they tell me I climbed out of my lift into the fire department's lift because there was like 15 or 20 phone calls to 911 that said, "Hey, there's a guy up there. I think he killed himself. He's on fire. There's people reporting I'm on fire. I'm smoking. Just all kinds of stuff." And then the
Mhm.
fire guys, they tell me they thought I was dead when they got there. But the fireman's like, "Don't touch nothing. Don't touch nothing." I do remember that. Then I had my experience, and then it was like uh, the guys tell me that I turned around and I hit one of the city workers and I said, "Oh, just take me home." I said, "Put me on the couch. Birgit will put some Camilla tea in my chest. I'll be fine," not really realizing the extent of it.
Right.
And it was like, I guess I passed out right in front of the gurney. Well, they gave me a shot. And then I kind of remember waking up on this rooftop and I'm going through these two silver doors and I see like the lower half of the white robes and the stethoscope, but I couldn't move my head. It was like I was paralyzed. And yeah, I heard one guy say, "Nah, I don't think he's going to make it." I'm like, I'm trying to say bullshit, I'm trying to move and I'm just totally paralyzed. But all I could do was smile, and it was like, man, and I'm like rolling through there. I'm just smiling as big as I can. And I hear that another guy, he's like, no, he's smiling. His chances are pretty good. Well, apparently, they they knocked me out for 3 weeks and a day into a chemically induced coma while they debrided me. So I had second through 6 degree burns over 35% of my body and went through 30 some odd surgeries, multiple skin grafts from my legs, neck, and chest. They told me I had to get off of the Dilaudid and another one. And I was like, man, let's just quit cold turkey. I'm when I was on that Dilaudid and stuff, I'm telling Spirit like every day, I'm just like, hey, pull the car up, baby. Let's get out of here. Let's just go home and call it a day. And she's like, you can't even walk yet. And I was, and I thought she was kidding me or something, And a few days later, they were like, hey, let's try to stand him up and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, yeah. And kind of help me roll up on my side. And then I kind of pop out of bed and my knees buckle and boom, I'm on the ground. And man, I'm just so blessed, to be here because when that power line hit me, I swear I went up through this tunnel of light
Mm,
and I seen these. It was like energy beings, and it was just beautiful. I felt like I was glowing,
sure.
and people were hugging me and patting me on the back, and yeah, it's just really warm and pleasant. And then it's like the light got bright, and then it was like a solid cloud bank, and I'm like looking left and right as far as I can, and I'm looking, and all I see is clouds. And then I realize I'm sitting on a wooden bench, and I look down to my left, and I see a huge sandal. And anyway, I kind of follow it up, and I'm looking in the robe. I see a white robe like a rope type belt, and this man, just super beautiful blonde white hair, just super big beard, beautiful face, I had the face of Zeus, like from a Zeus statue, man, just a beautiful man. And he touched my left shoulder and he said, go home. And man, I don't know. I think I'm supposed to be here for something, because
Right.
God's real, he's a real, he's real. There's something after this. And I feel like he loves us all, because if I was that guy, the stuff I've done in my life, dude, and me and hey, that's the last Joker I'm sending back. But
Right.
he sent
Right.
me back. I feel like he sent me back, to share his love and tell everyone that he's real. And if you're dealing with PTSD, bro, call me, call you, shit, uh, any of us.
Anybody. Yeah.
It's if you're dealing with that stuff and you want to end it. And it kills me, bro, because my son today's been
Right.
3 years since he took his life.
Right.
And I deal with it every day. And it's like, man, why? I wake up in the morning, I'm like, well, we seen you today, son. I'd say that for about 2 years, and about a year ago, my buddy Garrett called me up tonight. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna call him later and talk to him. But
Yeah.
he called me and he's like, dude, don't ship that pain. Don't take that pain and put it on your loved ones. And Birgit, she told me the same thing. If you take your life, he said you're going to be doing what your son did. And all that pain that you felt these last couple of years, you're just putting it on
Put on
somebody else.
someone
So
else. Yeah.
don't do it, man. Your life, everybody's life is worth it, man. And there's a God up there. And I question everything now. It's like, man, is the earth flat?
Right.
What's really going on? And I read stuff out of the Bible and I'm like, man, there's some beautiful stories in there. If you get in Ezekiel and he talks about the recipe for bread and he talks about the grain and the spelt and all the barleys and rye and stuff, he makes you bread. And it's like, you know, did we have all this stuff by accident? Was it placed here? And it's like there's there's something bigger than this, and I think that these veterans dealing with PTSD have to share it, man. They have
Right.
to get with fellow-minded soldiers, their old battle buddies, kind of get it off your chest, because I had 3 tours in Iraq and then three other tours. That's 6 deployments. 20
Right.
years. It's like, where's your time go? You don't spend time with your kids. So on evenings like this, I feel bad. That I spend all that time
So
away, and
I kind of
yeah,
want to, because that was kind of a moment for myself when I was finally talked about it, like
yeah,
with somebody. Um,
yeah.
that was basically it was one of the hardest things I've done, because
Mhm.
and in talking offline with some of the other guys that I've done this with and guys that are coming up yet,
Yeah, yeah.
one of the things is basically taking that first step and admitting that you know you actually need help. Because for myself it was, hey, I grew up in a a shitty childhood and joined the military, was over in Iraq, and
Yeah,
did
yeah,
this and did that, and I can do anything. You kind of get that mentality, only
yeah.
come to find out that years and years after the fact that it's still
Right.
still tearing
Oh yeah,
at your insides,
it's
still tearing you up.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
when you finally, because obviously we just talked about it, and finally I find it easier. I find life altogether easier being able to talk about it, with other like-minded veterans who've been there, who can
yeah, yeah.
experience it. So when did you finally come to that point in life where you were willing to open up and say, "Hey, I do need a little help, or I do need someone who can understand."
Well, I think I buried it until I retired. You know, I was
Right.
kind of towards the end. I went to the Warrior Reset Clinic, and that really helped me deal with my PTSD a lot. You know, because you just kind of bury, talk about it, and then somebody strikes a nerve, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna see that motherfucker. I'm gonna beat his ass. And man, it's like
Mm.
somebody did you so wrong because he was a toxic leader. You know, and those guys are out there, and you know exactly who I'm talking
Yeah,
about. You know?
yeah,
So
I do.
anyway, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna lose my freedom because I beat somebody's ass and ended up in jail, and it's
Right.
like, would it feel good? Damn right it would, Can I fight now? I've been electrocuted? Probably not. Probably couldn't fight my way out of a wet paper sack. But if it comes down to it, I'll give it everything I got and use everything I've ever known. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. But when I went through that Warrior Reset, they really dove deep in the counseling and talking to people and mentoring. You also got massages and uh, alpha stem therapy and I mean all kinds of stuff that help you deal with it. But yeah, I kind of
Well,
learned how to deal with it. And then since I've been retired, my friend Garrett and my friend Diana, they got me into these different programs. And I've been on several wounded warrior retreats. I went to one at the Tucker Knight Ranch, got to meet JD Williams, triple amputee from Afghanistan. Man, what a blessing to meet that guy because I met him before I was electrocuted. And it's like you meet these people and my wife Birgit, she likes to say you meet people for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, you
mhm,
know, and we can apply that to everything. And there's so much good literature out there. It's like, man, where do you learn to stay positive? And I'm like, man, I don't know. And I start thinking about back to 2005. After that second deployment, worked with Sergeant Major Salinas and Major Admiral Kevin Admiral. He's now the 3-star just south of us, Fort Hood. He's the 3 Corps commander. And it's like, man, when I got my E7, I was scared to death. I was gonna mess something up. They'd come in and say, "Hey, Sergeant Shields, what do we got going on in the sector?" And I'd be like, blah, 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 just spitting out garbage. And then, man, the Sergeant Major would pull me to the side. He'd be like, "Look, man, you got to focus. You got to pay attention. You want to hear how many people are out there, what patrols, what's going on. Practice, 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 man. I had this kid that could type 300 words, 298 words a minute at 98% accuracy. Rose kid from Bravo Company, he'd finish your sentence faster than he'd type faster than anybody I ever met in the world. And, worked for these guys. So what I did, I took Medina's thing. I'm like, what's fixing to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to be going on in 10 minutes? An hour and a half. And I learned to plan and prepare. I did it right in the bub for our battalion for the good last 6 months of that deployment. And the Bub's like the battalion commanders, or brigade commanders update brief. So, we got to do lots of cool stuff. They'd come in after a while and they'd be like, "Sir Shields, what's going on?" I'd be like, "Sir, 24 patrols in Sector 96 packs or personnel. I'm sorry, 15 Terps, got 2 H-64s, interdicting the long route sword, whatever." Fires. We're firing Burtner or your Alpha 03, Alpha 04. We're doing interdiction fires on east. We got PD1 Predators on the third screen. He's patrolling route sword or whatever. It's like, man, I got my briefings down on point and it felt good, man. I carried all that knowledge. These guys mentored me. I carried it into being a drill sergeant. Got to do all kinds of wonderful things, and then it's like going on these veteran trips and I met these disabled veterans. And yeah, I was a little bit jacked up for 20 years, but I could still
sure.
shoot, move, and communicate. Shit it, get it, And
Well, I think once it's ingrained in you, like it is in the infantry, you can shoot, move, and communicate for the rest of your
uh,
life.
you got to, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, man, you come out of an injury like that and then lose your son to suicide. You
Hmm.
want to give up, bro. You want to check out, man. It's like, you know what, I'm just
So
gonna
you said
do what the
you
good
felt
Lord
like you
wants me
wanted
to.
to. Yeah, you said you felt like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
wanted to check out. So during that time, who did you check in with to not
Oh
check out?
man, probably Chris Rod, my battle buddy. Great local guy, just super smart. He joined the Army Reserve, and he's still serving today. It's pretty cool. And then so Chris Rod and my other buddy Chad, they came to visit me when I was in the hospital down there after my electrocution.
Mhm.
And then like Diana Fincher and Garrett George, they're my other
So
two buddies. They got me tied into networking with other disabled veterans.
so what was
And
it? What was the catalyst that finally got you to reach out? Because
that night
back
that
years
Garrett
ago,
called
there
me,
was
probably a year ago
okay.
today, my son's anniversary, because I was still struggling. I was really struggling with it. You know, Dawn, and it was like, man, I'd meet somebody and I'd be like, yeah, I was a soldier, got to work on the capture of Saddam Hussein, got to do this, got to do that. And they're like, man, they can't relate. It's like,
Right.
yeah, you can talk to another soldier about it. They can relate to you, because they've dealt the hardships. So yeah, I mean, it's cool to tell civilians about, some of the good actions you got. That was John
Right.
Peeler. He always said good action. Great colonel, great guy. Bob Whittle too, his relief. I mean, just fabulous commanders. The first Cav division had just their leadership values and their ethics were just outstanding. And it's like every great Army unit, like we were in fourth ID. It's like General Odinero. He'd be mentoring Colonel Hickey. Colonel Hickey, he'd be mentoring Colonel Russell, he'd be mentoring Captain Stouffer. Captain Stouffer
Right.
was like our company commander. All missions were executed at the squad level, basically. So yeah, platoon sergeants sometimes they'd come along and have a platoon mission, but most of the time it's just squads out there, two Bradleys or fire team or whatever. And
Right.
it was out there patrolling. We're out there sniper OPs. We're out there counter IED.
Yeah, and that's one of the
We were
things
doing all
after
kinds of.
talking with you and Summers and PJ and Stephen Perry. Stephen Perry,
Right, right.
he works for Jesus and works for God now. He's a preacher
Yep,
through and through.
that's great.
Um,
Mhm.
and I think, well, I think the thing that's starting to actually come full circle is that reaching out to others that you were there with is probably
Yeah,
some of the best things you can do to help yourself. Like
yeah, oh yeah,
in talking with these guys over the last couple of weeks, it's really made me feel like, well, shit, all these years I felt like nobody knows, nobody understands,
yeah, yeah,
nobody gets it.
yeah. And I call you up, and I call up some of
Yeah.
that my good battle buddies that we were there. Shit, I'm like, hey, I love you, bro. It's like, man, when I think Garcia last year, I was like, man, I think about all the great. Just he kept us alive, man. When he was driving that vehicle, and I seen other vehicles get hit,
Yeah.
and just have a mess of guts inside of there, and somebody had to clean it up. You know,
Yeah.
Sometimes it was, we'd have to do what we had to do. And yeah, those losing soldiers on the battlefield really, really hurts, man. I remember when we were getting ready for that second deployment, Matt Matt Creed was one of my soldiers, man, and his mom Kim and his dad Rick, they came, they gave us a hug, and they said, "Take care of my baby." I'm like, "Oh, your baby is gonna be just fine." And it's like when
Mhm.
you don't bring him home, man, it hurts, man. And
Yeah.
when we came home after that second tour, and I lost Creed, Aguiar, and Colonel Osborne. These guys, I'm sure they're all dealing with PTSD. There's some traumatic stuff, that they had to deal with.
Right.
And man, when I seen Miss Creed and Rick, they were here on post, and they came into the auditorium because remember we'd come off of the plane, and then they bus us from the airport back to the unit area, and then we'd get off of the buses, and then there'd be fire trucks and American flags all over, and then they'd march us straight into the auditorium and have all the family members in
Yeah.
the bleachers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was coming through that door into that auditorium, marching basically in a straight line column. And I seen Kim, man. I felt like a little grain of sand, like somebody just threw on the beach, man. And that was the first time I really felt like I had a panic attack, and I felt like I couldn't breathe, bro, and it hurt, And after Corey did that, I'd called him up, and I'm like, I had no idea how painful it is when you lose a child. It's just the worst thing ever, man. And you ain't supposed to outlive your kids, so love them every day, hug them, and man, I got grandkids too, bro. I got one that's getting into high school right now, just started high school, man. Jakey, great kid. Katie Bell, Connor, just love them all. Got grandkids and everything, If you're down in the dumps, bro, you gotta, think about them little guys that that you're leaving behind, So,
Right.
yeah, God's message is, just stick around, man. Stick around, live it up. You want to complain about a washing machine, and that washing machine. At least you got a house to complain about if you got a washing machine. You know what I'm saying? There's always bigger fish to fry.
Right.
And if you're dealing with PTSD, bro, it's so imperative, man. You have got to call out.
All right, so Jason Shields on Facebook, reach out.
Yeah, Facebook, email, just good. Just tell Google, call Jason Shields. It'll probably find out Cutting Edge Graphics. Tell Google to call Cutting Edge Graphics in Gatesville.
Sure.
It'll ring my phone. If you're dealing with PTSD, give me a call. If you need some stickers, give me a call. If you want to come out and visit some horses, give me a call.
Sounds good.
I'll set it up with my wife. If you want to come down here and camp at the Leon River, maybe one or two veterans, come check it out and
like
start
I said,
doing
Jason, I'm more of a glamping kind of guy, but
glamping. Hey, I'll bring a generator and a
an air
AC
conditioner
unit down there for you. Yeah.
Well, we gotta
Come on
get
down.
down to Texas. There's so many guys that stayed around in that Texas area that just take a week
all
to
my
set
units,
up a tour.
all the units I've been in through the years, if come across this podcast by accident, go ahead and tag someone, share it, like and subscribe.
Absolutely.
Jason Meyer, man, you've got the voice of like a world-renowned spokesman. I'm telling you could read script for the White House, man.
I was just talking to a buddy of mine who saw that. He was like, "Dude, you got a voice for radio," and I'm like, "Well, what about my face, man? I'm on camera right now."
Yeah, you're a sexy mug, baby. You just deal with it, Yeah, share some of them photos of me. Share some of them photos of me through the.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time so much, and
all right.
We'll definitely keep in touch for sure.
Love you, bro. Be
Love
safe.
you too, man. You guys take care. See ya. Thank you for joining us on this episode. The stories you heard today are real and a reminder of the lasting consequences of war on our combat veterans. From the battlefield to the struggles at home, their courage continues long after the fight. If you are a veteran in need, please reach out. You are not alone. Resources for veterans include the Veterans Crisis Line, dial 988, then press 1. Online chat, veteranscrisisline.net. Text 838-255, the Wounded Warrior Project at thewoundedwarriorproject.org, National Center for PTSD, ptsd.va.gov. Even today, 18 veterans take their lives each day. Let's work together to change that number. If you are struggling, reach out. If you know a veteran, check in on them. Your call could save a life. Until next time, stay strong, stay connected, and remember, healing is possible.